My name is Eddie Rowe, and I'll be your chair for today's Large Systems Working Group session. Welcome to the Large Systems Working Group stream and to session number 9G. On this session, we're going to be joined by Steve Warren from IBM. And if there's any questions throughout the presentation, please place them in the chat. And then at the end of the presentation, we can also have questions in the chat, and also I can unmute you guys and you can ask your questions using the microphone. And final thing, please provide feedback when you go to the Bring Your Own Agenda section on the GSE website. Click the session. There should be a link on the session that takes you to the feedback. Also, I see Steve has got a QR code in his presentation. So please do complete the feedback. It allows us to improve the sessions for you. Now I will pass it over to Steve to take you through what's new in zOS 3.1. The stage is yours, Steve.
Okay. Hey, good morning and maybe good afternoon to some folks. I'd like to welcome you to what's new in zOS 3.1. Being from across the pond in the United States, I will slip into saying Z instead of Z, so you'll just bear with me as I deal with that little difference. Let me just tell you quickly about myself. I work in the home of the mainframe in IBM Poughkeepsie, New York. Where I focused for many, many years in zOS development. And just most recently, I've been working in a place where I'm an architect helping clients adopt the very latest technologies of zOS. And in particular, a lot of the functions that are available in the newer releases of zOS. So happy to be with you today. And we're looking forward to a great session. I will tell you, and if you've ever been to a live session that we've done on this topic, you would have seen the same thing. This is the epitome of a presentation that's not given in a style that you would recommend to someone. There's a lot of information, really a stereo of fire hoses being directed at you on all sides, because there's just so much information in the latest releases of zOS. So what we're going to try to cover here is some of the highlights. These are not going into too much depth, but the idea here is that you will be able to, have some maybe potential questions that you may have about a particular area. There might be areas that you want to do further exploration. In that case, you feel free to write something in the chat. I'll try to answer it the best I can. If you also have questions, you can also feel free to reach out to me. My email address is swarren at us.ibm.com. So I'll say it one more time, swarren at us.ibm.com. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will, by all means, attempt to give you a response back as soon as possible. All right, with that, let's start our whirlwind tour of what's new in zOS 3.1. So here you can see some of what things we're going to talk about today. We're going to do a quick overview of the release. We'll talk about how zOS supports the hardware, in particular the new hardware, and then divided by major foundation area, we're going to go through each one of these areas with application development and usability and skills, by far the largest of these items. So don't be nervous when we're application development. There's only like about 20 minutes left in the session. It's to be expected. I'm not going to be able to go through all the slides. A lot of the slides are here for reference. I will just briefly go over a couple select items sometimes on a slide too, for the sake of time. This is a key code here to help you understand the bottom. Let me talk about this for a second. If this functionality was available in the base of zOS 3.1, and it has been available also in an earlier release, it will be shown by a blue CD, and it will usually try to indicate to what release it was rolled back to. As you know, in zOS, we deliver functionality through something called a continuous delivery stream that allows us to deliver new functions via new function PTFs throughout the life cycle of the zOS release. There will also be read continuous delivery items that were delivered post zOS 3.1 general availability, which of course was September of last year. So you might see that, and in some cases, even those things that were delivered after the GA of 3.1, it could have been rolled back to potentially zOS 2.5 or even zOS 2.4. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the release overview. When we design a new release of zOS many years prior to its actual GA, we try to find the major areas of attention that we want to focus on the release. What are the heavy areas that we need to make sure we have a comprehensive set of functions around? And you'll see that AI infusion, application modernization and simplification, cyber resiliency are three themes you'll see throughout this presentation. I'm just going to go right to left and just quickly talk about them. So cyber resiliency, we know we have lots of threat actors out there that want to do harm to our systems. And so we need to be one step ahead of them. And so you'll see lots of things in the space of where we're delivering new function that will provide us with the capabilities to be able to deal with these threats. And a lot of them are dealing with the latest cryptographic algorithms that are in many cases immune in today's day and age to quantum threats. So quantum computers, of course, propose a whole new set of challenges when we're talking about being able to decrypt algorithms. And a lot of people have this idea of harvest data now and be able to decrypt it later. Quantum computers have not been able to break today some of the algorithms that we use currently to encrypt our data, but they will in the near future. So some clients, if they're able to get access to data now, they're able to hold that data and a number of years later be able to decrypt it when quantum is able to break that. So we need to always make sure that we are one step ahead and that we give our clients the ability to encrypt the data at rest and even data in flight using technologies that will be immune for the foreseeable future with quantum computers. And so you'll see some of that technology throughout this. You'll also see in the areas of application modernization and simplification. So application modernization, trying to make sure that we use technologies that are applicable to folks that are coming out of college, as well as be able to make our applications easier to maintain. And the idea of simplification to make our operating system less difficult to manage. zOS is a complicated operating system, trying to do that. And then AI. Well, we've never heard that on the media in the last number of years, right? Of course, AI is the buzz, right? It's a revolutionary, game-changing technology. And so how can we leverage AI on the zOS platform, leveraging some of the capabilities that are on the hardware, for example, with the IBM Z16? So we'll talk more about that slide in just a moment. That the reason for the change of the digit from 2 to 3 is in large part to this first item, the idea of having the operating system to be able to leverage AI in addition to it providing a platform for AI to be leveraged by your business applications and AI ops applications. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So this is the first reversion in 10 years. So 2.1 was 10 years ago, if you can believe it. So a lot of people get nervous when the first digit changes. They say, uh-oh, is there going to be a price increase in zOS? And the answer is there is no price adjustment for the base. There are some updated licensing terms, but that's not really a big deal. No change in price. So let's talk about zOS 3.1 and the AI-infused operating system. So clients have seen that a lot of the stuff on the media is not just all hype, that there actually is a lot of value to some of the AI technologies. And so they have started, I don't know how many AI on Z discovery workshops I've done it, and how many clients we've helped navigate through a POC, for example, to see how they can leverage AI on the zOS operating system. And so we've seen lots of businesses do that. And so now the idea is here, well, it's great that business applications can leverage that, but what about the operating system itself? How can the operating system itself also leverage this exciting technology? And so what we've done is we've introduced a new component called the AI framework for IBM zOS. And what that really is a infrastructure in the operating system that allows various operating system components to tap in to AI capabilities very easily and allow the end user, you being the client, to be able to take models provided by those various components and to be able to train them on your data, your SMF data or other forms of data in the same way, and then to be able to gain insights that are unique to you about those various components that are leveraging zOS. So the first turn of the crank, we've delivered one function at GA that leverages this AI framework for IBM zOS, and that is AI-powered workload manager. AI-powered workload manager is the ability for WLM managed initiators to be able to be more intelligent about when they are started up and when they are brought down. So in other words, WLM provides a model that can be leveraged and trained through a zOSMF interface. There is a AI framework control panel per se, that where you basically take a model provided by IBM and you train it against your data. Once you train it against that data, it'll say, we see how the initiator workload goes over time, and we can make some predictions about when we need to fire up initiators and when we need to bring them down. So rather than reacting when all of a sudden a huge workload comes in, WLM can sense when a big workload is about to come in, and it can start proactively starting up some of these address spaces in anticipation of that workload. So you don't have a sudden spike of workload, and the curve is mitigated somewhat when you have that workload. Again, be trained on your data. So this is exciting first thing of that, having the operating system taking more proactive measures. You will see over the next number of continuous delivery releases, as we deliver them at least once a quarter, other components of the operating system taking advantage of this AI framework for IBM zOS to be able to provide insights that are more predictive rather than reactive. So exciting stuff, exciting technology. We can talk for an hour or two just on this one topic, but I do want to move on to other topics throughout the particular presentation. Okay, so with that, let me just move on to the next slide. So this chart is a chart that we have in every single what's new in zOS presentation. It sort of talks just about the life cycles of various releases. So let's dig into this chart just for a second. On the bottom, you see zOS 3.1, and zOS 3.1 was GA'd in September of 2023, and it will expect it to be in service for 5 years. We always usually have a 5-year window of operating system support for a given release. So we expect end of service to be around 2028, September. And you'll notice that if you are in zOS 2.4, that the date of your end of service for 2.4 is coming up fairly soon. So you have approximately 5 more months to migrate from zOS 2.4 to either 2.5, and I might suggest that you go to 3.1 to take advantage of some of this other technology. So just be aware of that. As you can see, zOS 3.1 supports 3 levels of hardware. We've always done that when we deliver a new release of zOS. We support N to N minus 2 levels of hardware. So that's Z14, 15, and 16. You will also see that what other fact do I have? Oh yeah, the defect support. Highly recommended you don't leverage that because it is very expensive, but we expect that to be for another 3 years. Another side note is that in terms of parallel sysplex support, that we also support N to N minus 2 levels um, of operating system within the same sysplex. So you can have coexisting within sysplex 2.4, 2.5, and 3.1, although 2.4 is going to, again, go out of service at the end of the year. So at the end of September, really your sysplexes should be a mixture of 2.5 and 3.1, right? So that's all I'll talk about on that particular slide. Let's talk quickly about the hardware. As you can anticipate, when there's a new level of hardware out, the operating system is in tight synergy with that delivery of the release. And so you'll see lots of items here, all the items listed in blue, zOS has support for in the new IBM Z16, both models A01 and on the next slide, A02. You'll see there's lots of functionality. We'll talk about some of these items today. The key to mention here is that there's tight synergy with that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. As you can see, the A02, we also have a lot of support for a lot of the functionality there as well. So let's just talk about a couple of the highlights about what we support in Z16. So with zOS 3.1, we support up to 16 terabytes of memory per zOS instance. This seems to be a tremendous amount compared to what probably you have actually for one of your zOS LPARs. We will talk a little bit more about that in subsequent slides about what's a practical limit for that. There are new instructions to support for both COBOL and AI applications, as there are in any release of the hardware, and zOS fully supports them. There's a new level of the coupling facility, which provides some enhancements. We won't talk about those enhancements in this particular session, but zOS and XCF and XES fully support that of course. And then there's this integrated accelerator for AI. So this is a really amazing capability on the hardware that really provides an on-chip acceleration first in the industry that is focused on inferencing or scoring of your transactions. And so to provide transactional AI capabilities within the scope of a transaction to perform an AI score with minimal effect to your total elapsed time of your business transaction, as opposed to going off platform. So it uses amazing technology. And again, this has had tremendous uptake, and where I'm more than busy dealing with a lot of the clients that want to see how they can leverage this exciting capability on the platform. So we have a lot of support. You'll see on subsequent slides here, we'll talk a lot more about leveraging this accelerator. So there are some and new instructions that allow you to at a very low level to be able to access that integrated accelerator for AI. But also there are a lot of frameworks that transparently leverage the integrated accelerator for AI as well. Let's talk a little bit about this bottom thing, enhanced zip eligibility. So this is very important. So as we know, the de facto computer science 101 language nowadays is Python. Python is the language of choice that is being taught by a lot of folks. It has a lot of incredible capabilities. And it also is the language of AI. And a lot of people that when they're writing AI applications, whether it's model development or other things, they are using Python. So what we're doing here is we are extending Python to the list of in addition to Java, of applications that can leverage the zip processors. And of course, with zip processors, it's a one-time charge. You don't pay for monthly licensing charges for workloads that run on zip engines. So up to 70% of Python execution can be zip eligible. This is a very important characteristic and is a change that we want to have Python be a very utilized application environment. The next thing we need to talk about is the removal of the 2-to-1 ratio. What do I mean by that? Z16 servers now can be configured with many more zip engines, so as many as you want. Before, we had a restriction that said you can't have more than twice as many zip engines as you have general purpose processors. And in order to go beyond that, you'd have to get an exception from IBM. So if you have lots of Java workloads, if you had lots of modern workloads that can leverage zip engines, you would have a problem to get the maybe order as many zips as you would like. So for example, if you have 10 general purpose processors on a machine, I couldn't have more than 20 zips. Just was not allowed. Now, basically, we say order whatever you want, and we'll be able to handle any of those things. Okay. So again, this allows more modern workloads like things like zOS container extensions and other zip exploiting workloads to fully take advantage of the operating system. As we mentioned before about cyber security, ICSF has made some major enhancements. They fully support the Crypto Express 8 coprocessor, which is the new card that goes with the Z16. And one of the key differentiating factors for that is that the ability to support new quantum safe algorithms, these crystals algorithms, for example, dilithium and kyber. Powerful algorithms that in today's day and age, we do not see how, no matter how powerful a quantum computer is, that they can decrypt those type of complex algorithms. And so we fully support those. And so you can leverage those technologies to encrypt your workloads and to be quantum safe. Other enhancements I won't go into with ICSF. You can read that, and if you have any questions, let me know. And I do want to talk about the zOS validated boot. So there is a standards organization, the National Information Assurance Program within the United States, that basically called NIAP, which basically sets some standards for the United States federal government, and a lot of other countries follow suit with some of these other similar standards about how can I adequately protect my system, and certain standards to show that we are fully compliant, that the code running on our platforms are in fact the code that we anticipate to be there. And what do I mean by that? So imagine I take a code from some location. I have a clean room environment, which I build my executable IPL artifacts. What do I mean by that? So I'm building my IPL text, my standalone dump text, my nucleus, and LPA, right? And so I build that in my clean room environment today. And now I deploy that to many different locations. And then I boot the operating system, and life is good, right? What happens if someone interjects some bad code in there? How can I detect that the code that I'm actually IPLing is the code that I built in my clean room, that there hasn't been any insertion of additional code into those IPL artifacts? So the way to do that is something called validated boot. What you're going to do is you're going to take a public-private key pair. You're going to encrypt using some utilities. Basically, you're going to generate a certificate, a digital signature that is going to basically sign those IPL artifacts. You're then going to take the public key that is part of that public-private key pair, and you're going to publish that to the HMC. When you do a load on the HMC using this public-private key digital signature technology, if you select validated boot, what will happen is the operating system will validate that these IPL artifacts are in fact the artifacts that were originally signed in the clean room. And if they are not, it can warn you, or it could even go into disabled wait. Again, this is a way of being able to say the code that I am IPLing is the same code that I built in my clean room environment. So, of course, if you have PTFs, you will need to go through one additional step if the PTFs hit one of these IPL artifact regions. Again, nucleus, LPA being two ones that could be hit by APARs. So again, just trying to stay one step ahead. There are some folks that are going to need to prove that they are NIAP 4.3 compatible. And so this is just a way of addressing that particular issue. You're going to see this standard come up one more time and in subsequent slides. Okay, let's talk about some of the foundation areas. There's no way we can possibly cover this in the remaining approximately 30 minutes to cover all these things. We're going to just do some selected topics here, and hopefully you'll get a good feel of what's happening in zOS. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about.
Hey, Steve, sorry to interrupt. We've
Yes,
just got a question in the
yes.
chat. So if you're running IBM GDPS XRC, this is not supported at version level 3.1. So you will need to migrate to zOS 2.5 and not jump to 3.1.
Okay, that is a good question, or it's a statement. I'm not sure about XRC is not supported. I do believe on 3.1. I do believe that is a true statement. So, yeah, if you still are needing to use XRC, I think that is a true statement that you'll need to just stay on 2.5 for now. I think there are some alternative solutions to XRC, but I'm not well versed in that, so I won't weigh in on more on that right now. But if you want, you can feel free to send an email message to me, and I'll be happy. What I'll do is I'll put in the chat. I'll just put my email address here. If you want, you can ask more questions, and I can get more detailed answers for you on that. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate you. Okay, so with the advent of this AI, a lot of folks say, where do I get started in my journey to infuse AI into my existing applications? So we have a number of things that we can do for that. One of them is to go to the content solution page for AI, and there's lots of pointers. It's kind of like a one-stop shopping website. There's also community and getting started pages here. And something that I have been heavily involved with, and we have tons of uptake on, are these referred to as client engineering workshops. If you're interested in a workshop, feel free to contact us at this email address, and we will get you set up. We describe the technology, we do design thinking to actually help you come up with use cases, and then we actually help walk you through a POC journey and help you line up the reference architecture and even provide resources for you, even including data science skills if necessary, to help you get started with this journey. So we've had, it's more than I can possibly count of workshops that we've done. If you're interested you're interested in this, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll help you get started on your AI journey. All right, and let's go keep moving on. We talked about that there's new libraries that leverage the integrated accelerator for AI, for both machine learning and deep learning. I will just quickly go over some of these other things that Apache Spark has gotten a refresh. So Apache Spark 3.2 is now available on zOS. For those of you who are not familiar with that, that's again an in-memory compute engine that's been around for some time, and it has some additional capabilities in 3.2. We have a couple of offerings here. Now, as you know, when in the open source space, a lot of times code is provided for free. You can try it out all you want. If you want to have support for that, 24-hour support from IBM, for example, there are a couple paid offerings that you can avail yourself to leverage that free code, very similar to any open source packaging. And these are true for these two packages. The Python AI Toolkit allows you to have a lot of the industry-leading AI packages available on zOS through a very nice interface where you can download these packages. They run on zOS Unix system services, and you can run these Python packages. If you want the optional support, you can do that. In addition, we have this AI toolkit. There are a lot of popular open source frameworks where you can actually run this AI framework. Things like being able to run TensorFlow, a very powerful AI framework that a lot of clients have used. IBM SnapML, a very powerful machine learning, highly optimized, again, both TensorFlow, machine learning, leveraging that integrated accelerator for AI as part of that Telum chip on the IBM Z16. The deep learning compiler, a technology that allows you to take deep learning models and to compile them so that they generate executables that can run on zOS. So a lot of these technologies, again, open technologies. In the case of deep learning, we use this framework or this format of a model called ONNX, Open Neural Network Exchange, ONNX, which then can be fed into the deep learning compiler to generate an executable that runs natively on zOS, leveraging the integrated accelerator when possible. And other things, the Triton Inference Server, powerful capabilities. Most of these capabilities run in zOS container extensions, ZCX. And these packages have full support if you apply this optional feature. So again, powerful capabilities that are available here. If you do a workshop with us, we'll help you create a reference architecture leveraging, telling you which ones are the best ones to leverage. And of course, another popular thing you can leverage on zOS is machine learning for zOS 3.1. Used to be called Watson machine learning. We got rid of the word Watson, but the technology is really powerful. This enterprise edition listed on the top is a end-to-end complete set of functionality that allows you to train, develop, go into production with highly optimized inferencing that can be leveraged by your Kix COBOL, your Kix, your COBOL, IMS COBOL applications, batch applications, in the most fast way possible by actually having the model deployed in the same address space as the actual business application that you have. So imagine in the Kix region, I can have my application that the model actually in the same address space. So near zero latency and highly optimized performance. It even provides a new explainability feature to allow you to be able to go out there and say, I need to be able to show when my model makes a prediction, what features or what was the number one factors that helped it make that decision. And you might need to do that for compliance, for example, or to show for auditability when your models are making certain decisions, all of it built in. This core edition primarily used for some of our IBM partners, but another offering that we provide that will help you, and also that the AI framework can leverage. So powerful capabilities, powerful frameworks that all run in AI, and just want to make them available to you to make sure. Let's talk about zOS container extensions. Of course, this has been around since zOS 2.4. It gives you the ability to run Linux on Z binaries packaged as Docker containers on zOS. Just a little side note here. Whenever you see lots of scalability enhancements, you can be pretty assured that a lot of clients are using this technology or want to use this technology, but there are some restrictions in play. So in this case, very, very tremendous amount of scalability improvements are being made, as you can read there. I won't talk about all of them. And again, this allows you to run a lot of the workloads that run in zOS container extensions, including what we just talked about before. There's many AI use cases where folks want to be able to have an in-memory cache, for example, and they need to be able to have that in-memory cache hold a very large amount of data in memory. So in a case of one AI workload that I've been dealing with, close to 400 gigabytes of in-memory cache to be able to use for real-time inferencing of a fraud detection AI use case. zCX also has been kept up to date with kernel updates and support for making the zOSMF workflows easier and more resilient when you run out of disk space, for example, for it to be able to recover. zCX also supports now NFS as a persistent data store. So I can use zOS NFS server to actually store data that needs to be stateful data in my application. So I don't have to just use zCX Docker volumes. Those Docker volumes can also be back-ended by an NFS. This allows you to store between, allows your zOS applications and your zCX applications to look at the same data. So very cool capabilities. And then in March of 2022, we introduced this thing called zCX Foundation for Red Hat OpenShift. This allows you to run an OpenShift cluster natively on zOS. We've seen a lot of folks in the last year or so really start leveraging zCX for OpenShift on zOS. Again, you can run, it's the same OpenShift that runs on x86 in public cloud or on-prem for x86, or that runs on Linux on Z. You can also run it on zOS natively. So really powerful capabilities. Some enhancements in this space. We now support the de facto persistent data store for OpenShift. That's IBM Storage Fusion, which might be better known as the Red Hat OpenShift Data Foundation. That's fully supported on zCX. Also, we support the containers version of WebSphere in zCX and two brand new offerings. Single node OpenShift allows you to be able to bring up a cluster in one address space. Much fewer requirements for you to kick the tires using OpenShift. And so this is a new function that's available with Red Hat OpenShift 4.14 and now is fully supported on zCX on zOS 3.1. So and it goes back to 2.4 actually, this particular function. So 2.4, 2.5, or 3.1, you can take advantage of single node OpenShift. This is a low availability configuration. This is not for high availability types of workloads where you want to be able to have the full capabilities of all the control and compute nodes that are in a normal OpenShift cluster. But for some workloads that you don't need to have high availability, or for just running a test or POC, you don't have to make a huge investment to get started. And then this multi-architecture support, really powerful, that I can have a hybrid cluster, OpenShift cluster. Some nodes reside on zOS, some nodes reside on x86. And this provides capabilities that I could have just my compute nodes, for example, where the actual applications run, co-located on zOS, but the infrastructure is still on x86, or I could go the other way around, where I have the control nodes on zOS and I actually am deploying to x86. So multi-architecture as well as multi-platform. We also support running a hybrid cluster now between Linux on Z and zCX. So really powerful capabilities here, more flexibility than ever, and a lot of clients are excited about both of these last two offerings here. As just a reminder that a lot of the packages that run in zCX can be found on the IBM Z and Linux One Container Registry, which provides a set of vetted images that have been built by IBM. And you can have vulnerability scans have already been run against them. So again, you don't have to just run open source and not know what you're getting, right? There's also another offering called the zOS Container Platform. This is just available very recently. And since March 15th of 2024, this provides the capabilities of running zOS Unix workloads. These are actual zOS binaries that can be run in a containerized fashion. This is the first turn of the crank of leveraging this amazing technology. So through a Kubernetes-like fashion, I can actually take zOS workloads, For example, let's take some Java applications that I have running on zOS today, and I can actually visualize them in a Kubernetes-like fashion and build containers for those packages and run them with Kubernetes for high availability and high orchestration. So there are certain applications out of the box that can run in this space, and one of them is zOS Connect. zOS Connect will play in this space, and you will be able to actually install zOS Connect on zOS, but being managed by Kubernetes across maybe your Sysplex. So very powerful capabilities here. More to come. There's an entire content solution page that can help you understand a little bit more about zOS Container Platform. Again, this is for zOS applications as opposed to ZCX, which is about Linux on Z binaries packaged as Docker containers being able to run on zOS. We have a whole bunch of compilers that run on the operating system, and I will just mention, of course, the standard compilers. We recommend you always get the latest compilers and recompile so you can take advantage of the latest hardware. As you may also know, that Go, Python, and Node.js all run on zOS, and we have lots of versions for them. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about Semaru, which is the name of Java, right? And so we need to talk about Java and zOS 3.1 on the subsequent page. And so what we really need to do is that the timeline for the Java releases and zOS releases are not the same. Of course, IBM doesn't own Java. And so here's the deal. The operating system itself is fully supporting zOS 3.1 fully supports version 17. And the reason why it supports 17 is because Java 11 or Semaru 11 is only available until November 30th of 2024 when it goes out of service. And so when we GA'd, we basically had all of the operating system support Semaru 11. But since the GA and until November 30th, we've now delivered a set of functionality. There's a fixed cat that says required service Semaru 17, in which the operating system is basically saying, we are all now supporting Semaru 17 because, of course, we want to be in a supported Java release at all times for the operating system. So there's some operating system components, for example, zOSMF, and as well as many ancillary products that run on the operating system that have PTFs that you will need to apply so that you can fully have the operating system support Semaru 17. That being said, when you order zOS 3.1, we highly recommend now that you order Semaru 17. Of course, you can have Java version 8, as well as Semaru and 11 and Semaru 17. So you can have 3 versions of it right now. A lot of your applications that you may have in your shop may use still Java 8. And Java 8, unlike 11, is going to be supported until 2026. So you have time to migrate your Java 8 applications. But if you are running at Semaru 11, and you are expecting, support, you're going to be, the support for 11 is what's going away. So at the end of November, you should have at least Java 8 and Semaru 17 installed on your system, right? And so 17 is what the entire operating system will support. And that's why it's important that you get this fix cat to be able to get the required fixes for the operating system to make sure that it is in full compliance of Semaru 17. So a lot to digest. Any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me and we can talk more about the fact that you really need to move to Semaru 17. Let's talk about ISPF. ISPF supports PDSE version 2 member generations. It did not in the past. You can now have a generation list that you can browse, edit, and view. There's some other enhancements in ISPF, which we won't talk about here, but that are listed here below. The Z shell. This has nothing to do with IBM Z, right? It has to do, it's just the name of a shell. It's kind of like Bash on steroids. There is a new version of that 5.8.1, and this provides a highly customized environment similar to Bash. Again, a new version there. So zOS Unix is a fully Unix compliant operating system, but that being said, there are some things that are not part of the Unix standard that just zOS Unix does differently. And we're trying to eliminate those so that the experience for a Unix person is very similar when they're in zOS Unix as it is compared to all the other Unix distributions that are out there, right? A good example of that is grep-r and -r, not in the past searching directories recursively like it does on every single other platform. Again, trying to just make the Unix utility and command experience closer to the other ones. There's a new callable services for RACF identity tokens. So in addition to the authenticate service syscall, now in addition to user ID, password, or passphrase, now allows you to input a identity token, a JOT, a JWT, to use for authentication of a user, and a couple other enhancements made in this space that we'll skip over. For those that you're not familiar, that zOS natively has a very powerful JSON parser. It's part of the zOS Client Web Enablement Toolkit, and it now tolerates comments, as well as it has improved by another 50% faster than it was before. It was already a screamer, and now it's even faster. So really powerful capabilities if you need to do any parsing. The Web Enablement Toolkit, their HTTP support also allows you to specify a connection timeout. Some folks did not like the default value, and it would be tying up blocking call that would be tying up a thread on your application. You can now specify a very short timeout to say, hey, if the guy isn't available over who I'm trying to connect to for a REST API call, I'm just going to time out early. OpenSSH has been updated to 8.4p1, and the XML toolkit is no longer a separately no charge feature. It is now included in the base of zOS. And then to wrap up this topic, we have easy NoSQL. So the de facto NoSQL database in the industry is MongoDB, right? But and that can run in zOS Container Extension, ZCX, right? But we provide a native NoSQL experience that is fully Sysplex aware, and you might want to consider using this. It leverages vSAM under the covers and provides a full, rich set of services that allow you to, store this key value document store on zOS. And we provide both C and Java interfaces with that. I would highly encourage you to check out this content solution. And of course, there's some new support here that allows you to scan NoSQL documents sequentially using a new ordered index parameter. So that just came hot off the presses here. So again, NoSQL capabilities. In the area of usability, we're going to talk a lot about zOSMF, right? And the fact that for new people coming out of college, it might be a more difficult experience to be able to manage zOS. We're trying to make it easier, and also even for folks that are more seasoned to be able to do things in a more visual way. And so some of the new capabilities we're going to talk about here. So the zOSMF desktop, which allows you to edit data sets directly. It now has syntax highlighting for Python, JSON, and YAML. It also allows you to be able to submit and perform dataset operations on a remote system. So that's a new capability. It also has this dataset and file comparison, which a lot of times people will use third-party products to compare data sets, and now you can actually do that within zOSMF. You're able to upload and download files to the desktop. So if you're running on Apple or on Windows, you can just say download a particular file, and it will do the code page translation and bring it down very quickly. You can use drag and drop to be able to take files that are on your PC and upload them into your data set. Very simple usability enhancements. This is a new one, the Parmlab Syntax Validation REST API. Powerful capabilities for you as you're trying to automate more things, maybe through technologies like Ansible or other things that leverage REST APIs. I want to be able to make changes to my parm lib, for example, but I want to validate that the parm lib that I'm making updates to is syntactically correct. And this zOSMF parm lib syntax validation REST API does just that. 38 different types of parm lib members. It will actually validate if the syntax that is in the current member is accurate. Then maybe you're going to make a change, and then you run the syntax checker again to make sure that the syntax is correct. So really powerful capabilities. If the syntax is incorrect, it will point you to the exact location of the offending syntax error. The security configuration assistant makes it easier again for you to configure zOSMF. And of course, it also supports a number of products such as SDSF, DSS, HSM, can also leverage the security configuration system to manage its security requirements, right? And a whole lot more here. For the sake of time, I'm just going to skip over this. The Sysplex management plugin has been adding new functions over the last number of releases. A release or two ago, they added the CFRM policy editor to provide a full range of capabilities on managing your CFRM policies. And just added is the CF structure sizer. And the CF structure sizer rolled back to 2.4 and 2.5, excuse me, allows you to now have, instead of going to the web page to actually size your CF structures, for example, when you move to a Z16, one of the first migration actions is you need to resize your structures for the new CF level, right? And so instead of going out to the web browser, you can now actually go right within zOSMF and enhance capabilities compared to the web page to figure out how to size that information. And you can see the sizing screenshots that are available here on the right-hand side. I'll just skip over this page, basically saying that zOSMF, of course, is not just about the user UI, but it's also about a whole bunch of REST APIs that help you manage zOS. And so we've added lots of new capabilities. When you upgrade to zOS 3.1, of course, you have the upgrade workflows, which are shipped as part and service with zOS. And so we highly recommend you use those workflows. That is kind of the way that IBM recommends you go from one release to the next. We have the software management is the way you actually install zOS, right? And so if zOSMF software management may be the first foray for many of you into zOSMF, because that's the only way to install zOS nowadays, right? So highly recommend that if you've never done this before, that you click this link on the bottom that will actually have a sample product for you to install. This gets you a little bit of understanding about how a zOSMF software management works when you're talking about installing something. If I had a choice, I would first install this sample. Then I would go ahead and maybe install one of the middleware products like IMS DB2 Kicks or something like that. And then lastly, tackle zOS itself. Of course, you can install it, do whatever you want, but there are no more ISPF custom pack dialogues to install server packs. And so we highly recommend that you start familiarizing yourself with that. If you need more information about this, I'm happy to, bring a talk to your organization to help you better understand how software management works. Remember that NIAP 4.3 standard that was for validated boot? Well, there's another part of that 4.3 standard, and that is, okay, before I even get the code, I want to make sure as I'm downloading software packages from various vendors, IBM and others, that package that I'm receiving actually came from that vendor. And so what we've done is IBM has assigned a lot of the software packages, and that's for server pack, CBPDO, receive order PTFs, and shop Z PTF orders. They're all digitally signed, and optionally, when I go ahead and start using those packages, I can actually validate the signature. And so by doing that, I can ensure that code really was created by IBM, and other software vendors are welcome to do this as well. And you can validate again through the certificates that, in fact, that package that you're receiving from IBM is legitimately from IBM. I'll skip over these two slides just as a reference of some other zOS MF enhancements. The software management update. This allows you to apply service. We've made several enhancements to make it easier to use. And so I highly recommend you take a look at this. This is a way to apply PTFs using zOS MF, both corrective, individual APARs, recommended, things like RSUs, and functional, things like fixed cats. You can do all that with zOS MF, and we're trying to make it easier and easier for you to use it. If you haven't used it in a while, I would suggest you maybe try to take a look at it and see, maybe this is an easier way to apply maintenance than your traditional SMPE jobs that you use today. All right, next slide. So we also provide a zOS MF feedback collection enhancement. You can now gather statistics about who's using zOS MF. You can even give those statistics to IBM if you want to. Some additional capabilities there. In the area of assembler skills reduction, of course, we know a lot of folks don't have deep assembler skills. We want to make it easier. Jez has been adding these new JSON-based policy definitions that replace their assembler exits that they provided. And so again, this is really awesome stuff. You can read it very easily. There's no need for assembler skills, and you can activate these policies very, very simply. So this is just a really cool example here. Many support for many of the different JES 2 exits can now be done through these new JES 2 policies. In the area of scale building performance, so as I mentioned before, you can have up to 16 terabytes of real memory in a single image. That's not really a practical limit because a drawer on a Z16 is only 10 gigs. So you're never going to want to have an LPAR go cross drawer. So let's just say 10 terabytes is really the maximum you would ever have for an LPAR. And even then, that is just trying to be ahead of the need and to allow however large you need to have your LPAR, have that available to you. Now, one of the issues is when you start dealing with memory on the system is that a lot of times the memory is first come, first serve. So for example, 2 gig pages today, it's first come, first serve. When I IPL, if one address space uses a lot of 2 gig pages, it can take all of them. As opposed to having dedicated real memory pools, I can basically set up through a series of parmlab members and divide out my memory ahead of time so that I have a minimum amount of memory for very large memory users. And so this is the idea of dedicated real memory pools. We have the concept of WLM, implicit long-term CPU protection. So WLM, basically, today, when System Recovery Boost is in effect, allows you to, it actually will deem your work to be CPU critical for any importance 1 or any importance 2 work. And with zOS 3.1, even when System Recovery Boost is not in effect, any importance 1 work is implicitly set to CPU critical. So that's a difference in change in behavior for Workload Manager. Okay. RMF provides incredible capabilities now that I can visualize a lot of my reports through the industry standard, open source standard, Grafana. And so Grafana is a visual dashboard that a lot of folks use. And now I can actually visualize a lot of those reports through a Grafana plugin that's provided with RMF. So if you have RMF, you're entitled to this. The DDS server, which basically takes a lot of the report data and then sends it to Grafana, for example, is zip eligible. So you're not paying additional monthly licensing charges to leverage this capability. And RMF has made lots of enhancements in other spaces as well. I am at the top of the hour. I am going to try to go a couple more minutes. So if you guys, for those of you who have to drop, that's fine. But I have a few more slides. If you can just bear with me for a few more minutes, we can try to get through a couple other things here. So I'm going to go to System Recovery Boost. If you're not leveraging that on your Z15 or Z16, you're really not leveraging some important capabilities. And new on the Z16 are things that the zOS operating system fully supports. which are new boosting actions. So boosting actions, what a boost is, when you do system recovery boost, you can leverage the fact that maybe you're running at sub capacity. I can run at full capacity for the LPAR and not get charged for that additional capacity during boosting periods. And likewise, I can avail myself of other zip engines and blur the dispatchability between general purposes and zip engines during a boosting period. So in addition to what was already delivered on Z15 and Z16, we have middleware startup boosts. Middleware startup boosts allow you, for any startup task that you choose, you can say, when I start up this startup task, I want to have a system recovery boost action and to be able to have this additional capacity. You're limited to 30 minutes per LPAR per day for these specialized boosts, but great enhancement for having a faster turnaround when you have to restart DB2, for example. You can also avail of this, for example, for SVC dumps. And so SVC dump capabilities, when a dump exceeds a certain size, I can automatically avail myself of a boost for that as well. I will mention this SMF Explorer for Python, very powerful, tons of excitement around this. Being able to take SMF data and be able to manage and be able to visualize that and to get reporting on that and to have insights on that using Python and Jupyter notebooks. Really powerful capabilities, leveraging maybe skills that are available with some of your new hires. If you go to a lab that has this there's all kinds of excitement around this capability. So I would highly recommend you go to this GitHub and the Hot Topics blog to get more information about this. JES 2 has made a number of enhancements, as we mentioned, about the policies. I will mention this resiliency improvement on the bottom. The resiliency improvement basically allows JES to be smart and for very large users that are consuming large amounts of spool, for it to be able to curtail that job and weight the job when one particular job is taking an inordinate amount of spool resources. SDSF has made tons of enhancements, and here's an example of one where it allows you to be able to see when modules, when data sets, when jobs, and when modules have last been fetched. You might want to know when it has a program last been executed on my system. Is this program even being used anymore? And it'll, through a series of different reports, being able to show you that additional capability, amongst many other features that are provided with SDSF. The change tracker is an optional priced feature that allows you to have a configuration change management for your configuration data sets like parmlib, proclib, TCP parms, and other things, to be able to have a more managed experience for those critical configuration data sets. In the area of networking, zOS encryption readiness technology has had additional enhancements. We support new cryptographic attributes and methods, and we also have improved the security of the database and allow you to have additional capabilities for be able to, again, zOS, the ability to visualize the encryption traffic coming to and from zOS, right? And so additional capabilities for supporting new cryptographic attributes. This slide basically says that ComServer fully supports the new Rocky Express 3 card. And so I'll just skip over that. Are you running SNA applications still? Do you even know what you're running in terms of SNA? These SNA application session reporting can give you a visualization about what SNA traffic still exists on your system. And Sysplex Distributor has been enhanced also, allows you to pause and resume even across IPLs and specific application servers. So pause, resume, working more robustly than ever before. In the area of data serving and storage, I just will mention a few capabilities. Of course, there's the technology that's been around for some time, transparent cloud tiering, which allows when you're backing up you can go directly from a DS8K to a public cloud without having that data pass through zOS, again, reducing your MIPS consumption because it literally goes out the back end of the DS8K directly to public cloud managed by HSM, right? We also allow you to store directly to the cloud. And so I'm just going to talk to you about a couple amazing technologies. Cloud data access, giving you the ability to have your native zOS applications directly access IBM Cloud, Amazon Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud. Really powerful capabilities. The same exact API call to call Amazon can be used to use Azure or Google or IBM Cloud by just changing one parameter. If you know anything about public cloud providers, the interfaces are grossly different. We hide all those differences to you, and basically you have an API that allows you to write directly to and from the public cloud. With the same interface for any of the cloud providers. Really powerful capabilities for this. And you wanted to go one up on that. Cloud storage access for zOS and the GDK util allows your JCL to specify a DD card that is, wait for it, a public cloud. So your DD card can represent a public cloud. So you can be able to write out without even coding a single line of code. Really powerful capabilities here. Lots of excitement here. There's a quick start guide that you can click on when you get these slides. There's lots of enhancements made in data serving, and these are all for reference. I wasn't going to plan on covering any of these, but just to let you know that there are some other capabilities. I do want to mention just about the data set file system that's been around for some time that people are not even aware of. This gives the ability of you from the zOS Unix shell to actually reference zOS data sets in a hierarchical nomenclature like you would do there. So I can grep data sets. I can actually SFTP a zOS data set directly. So if I need to send a dump to IBM, for example, I can actually say SFTP it and point to the data set. And if I using the hierarchical nomenclature, I can actually do that without having to copy it over into my ZFS. Really powerful capabilities and some new support, direct access to JES spool, and now support even for migrated data sets. So really powerful capabilities here. There's a new ZFS health checks that can help you detect if you have cache performance problems or any exceptions to your ZFS. And now there's also additional capabilities for the Java H backup command to direct your backup to a particular HSM if you have more than one HSM running on your system. And lastly, but not least, security. I'll just talk about a couple of the really important enhancements here, and that is on this page right here. Being able to, for example, distribute the master key ownership. If you don't use the TKE workstation to generate your master keys, you would be using the ICSF panels, and sometimes for ICSF, you have multiple people that are generating parts of the master key. But now I have actual SAF controls that can basically require only a certain set of users to create the first part of the master key, a certain set of users for the last part, and a certain set for the middle. Powerful capabilities, support for CCA 7.5 and 8.2, if you're familiar with that architecture that's used for the banking industry. And then this read-only archive support. If you're using operational keys to actually encrypt your data, you will see that with those operational keys sometimes need to be rotated out, and I need to use different keys, right? And so when I do that, I'm going to grab all the data that uses a particular key, re-encrypt it using my new key, and now I could throw away the old key, right? Well, if you throw it away and you forgot to decrypt one of the data sets, you're screwed, right? Because there's no way to visualize that data. So the idea with read-only archive key support is that I'm going to put this key in this particular archive, which means that if I have a data set that's been encrypted with it, I can decrypt. I just cannot use that key to re-encrypt new data. So that really important capabilities there. And the last item I'll talk about is TLS 1.3 Sysplex session ticket sharing. This gives you the caching, I'm sorry. This gives the ability of of TLS handshakes to be Sysplex aware. What do I mean by that? When the first time you connect with a TLS connection, you do what's called this full handshake between the partner system and your system, and you do this handshake. It's a very lengthy process, and all subsequent requests coming from that guy use what's called an abbreviated handshake. The idea with this is that if that handshake is done on one system in your Sysplex, and then a request comes from that same end user to another system in your Sysplex, and it's not aware, it has to do the full handshake again. With this support, that handshake is known to every system in the Sysplex, and you can do an abbreviated handshake on all of them. Again, massive improvement in performance, since that first handshake is very costly from a performance perspective. I know I'm way over time. There is so much information here. We could probably talk for another few hours here, but I apologize for going over a little bit here. But I just wanted to say thank you for your time, and to please take a moment to fill out your session evaluations. Are there any questions, Eddie, that came up afterwards?
There isn't any in the chat at the moment. There
Okay.
was one request for a follow-up discussion, but I will share that with you after the call.
Okay, sure. Thank you guys for your time. I'm sorry that it went relatively quickly, but I hope you got some useful insights. Again, please feel free to reach out to me on anything you want more details with, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible.
Great. Thank you very much, Steve.
Sure. Well, you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll be talking to you soon. I'm looking forward to maybe see some of you in person in the event in Whittlebury in I believe it's end of October. So